More details have been released as to why Molly Qerim abruptly quit ESPN. And when I say abruptly quit, I mean she left work, I think it was on Monday.
In 2025 at ESPN, everything starts with the money, because nothing shakes the ground quite like a contract north of $100 million. StephenASmith, for anyone keeping score, has inflated his own price tag so high it's practically bent the company's orbit. $20 million a year, not just for running First Take, but for anchoring Monday Night Football, NBA Countdown, and popping up anywhere the network needs a jolt of ratings. He's the face on the billboards, the voice booming through every hallway in Bristol, the motor that never shuts off, all that power, all that cash. And just as Smith cements himself as ESPN's most expensive, omnipresent star, his longtime co-host Molly Qerim slips quietly out the side door. One moment she's there, the next she's gone. First came whispers she'd walk away at year's end. Then came the shock, an Instagram post in mid-September, straight from Qerim herself, closing the book on a decade-long run. Effective immediately, she wrote. No farewell tour, no tribute weeks, just one last day at the desk. Then vanished from the set that made her a household name. For those keeping score, Qerim's history at ESPN runs nearly 2 decades deep. She joined the network in 2006, cutting her teeth on digital and live programming, then snagging an Emmy on ESPN2 before stepping into the fire as First Take's host in 2015. If Stephen A. is the gas pedal, Qerim has always been the brakes, the moderator who kept the shouting matches from flying off the rails. She balanced his bombast, kept debates watchable, and according to the official plan, was supposed to ease off the set at the end of this year. That was the script. But instead of a farewell tour, she yanked the cord with zero warning. Viewers blindsided, producers scrambling. What should have been a long goodbye became a clean break, confirmed in an Instagram post before management could even get their story straight. And just hours later, right on cue, ESPN's president of content, Burke Magnus, stepped in, scrambling to douse the speculation. According to Burke Magnus, there's no controversy here, no hidden drama, just a simple case of someone ready to move on. In interviews, ESPN's president of content paints Qerim's exit as nothing more than a contract that didn't get renewed. He calls her an awesome person, insists the network actually hoped to keep her in another role, and claims even executives were caught off guard by her timing. His version is neat. 10 years is a long time. Qerim wanted new challenges, and she was already expected to step down at year's end. But the cleaner Magnus tries to make it sound, the messier the details feel. If this was all business as usual, why did news of her departure leak days before the official announcement? Why did Qerim have to scramble a rushed Instagram post just to confirm what reporters were already whispering? Magnus swears there's no other shoe waiting to drop, but the harder he works to shut down speculation, the more it sparks questions about what ESPN doesn't want spilling out. The human side doesn't make it any less complicated. StephenASmith opened the next First Take like he was delivering a eulogy. He praised her as a friend, credited her for elevating the show, and admitted, "To say I'm sad is an understatement. It was gratitude, nostalgia, and just enough emotion to show he'd been caught off guard too." Then, a few hours later on Sirius XM, the story shifted. Smith dropped the word ESPN wasn't using, abrupt. He said Qerim abruptly resigned, his phrasing not hers, before quickly adding that the details were none of y'all business. He even admitted, "It's not as if I know all the details. It was a contract negotiation. ESPN didn't want to lose her, but she made the decision to walk away. Effective immediately." It's a curious dance. He wants the audience to know it was sudden, but claims not to know why. He repeats abrupt more than once. And if this really was just a routine contract dispute, why lean so hard on the idea that it blindsided him? Behind the scenes, producers are left scrambling. With Qerim gone, they're forced to improvise a revolving door of tryouts, auditioning one personality after another to see who can steady the ship. The very morning her exit goes public, ESPN is already pushing out a press release about Malika Andrews' shiny new contract, fueling whispers that the network had her replacement waiting in the wings all along. The timing feels just a little too neat. Qerim's own farewell only deepens the mystery. Now that the news came out earlier than I intended, and not in the way I hoped, she writes on Instagram, leaving just enough ambiguity to spark more questions. She thanks the fans, the show, and the network, but ends with 2 words designed to stir the pot. Stay tuned. As if she knows exactly how much speculation she's inviting. And yet, she gives no clue what really pushed her out the door. Through the cracks, a bigger conflict starts to show. This was never just a contract dispute. Qerim was reportedly offered new roles within the company, then chose to walk away entirely. And the harder ESPN executives push the clean break narrative, the less believable it sounds. Hovering over it all is StephenASmith, in the middle of his own high-stakes negotiations, reportedly demanding nearly $20 million a year just as his influence hits its peak, stretching across the NFL, NBA, and every marquee broadcast ESPN can throw at him. At the same moment, his power swells. His decade-long co-host, the on-air equal who balanced his fire, is suddenly gone. No transition, no soft landing in another role. Not even a week of tributes, just gone, vanished overnight, leaving ESPN's top brass admitting on the record that even they were blindsided by the timing. Through the cracks, a bigger conflict starts to show. This was never just a contract dispute. Qerim was reportedly offered new roles within the company, then chose to walk away entirely. And the harder ESPN executives push the clean break narrative, the less believable it sounds. Hovering over it all is StephenASmith, in the middle of his own high-stakes negotiations, reportedly demanding nearly $20 million a year just as his influence hits its peak, stretching across the NFL, NBA, and every marquee broadcast ESPN can throw at him. At the same moment, his power swells. His decade-long co-host, the on-air equal who balanced his fire, is suddenly gone. No transition, no soft landing in another role. Not even a week of tributes, just gone, vanished overnight, leaving ESPN's top brass admitting on the record that even they were blindsided by the timing. And as the dust settles, the real suspense lingers in StephenASmith's own words. He drops one last breadcrumb. Do I have an idea? Of course I do. Am I going to share it with you? No. That line cuts sharper than any press release ESPN issues. It hangs in the air like a dare, Smith smiling on camera, the man with all the leverage and none of the answers. At least not for the public. Behind the polite tributes and corporate denials, one thing is undeniable. This story isn't finished, not even close, because within hours of Molly Qerim's abrupt goodbye, before her chair was even cold, ESPN was already pushing a new headline. Malika Andrews, just 30, freshly signed to a multi-year deal. To the public, it was framed as a celebration of rising talent, but behind the curtain, insiders saw the calculation. One high-profile woman out, another announced with a flourish, as if ESPN could fill the void with a simple swap, plugging a personality vacuum by promoting a new star, and instantly whispers ignited. Would Andrews slide into the moderator's chair on first take? Was this the move all along? The optics were impossible to ignore, as Smith's profile and his record-breaking contract demands stretched across every corner of the network. Those around him began to look less like teammates and more like chess pieces, replaceable, shuffled, discarded without warning. This wasn't just about a messy exit. Beneath it all lingered a bigger question. How did StephenASmith's growing power, his $20 million salary demands, his influence over casting and content, his sense of invincibility, affect the people working beside him, especially his female colleagues? Even before Qerim's sudden departure, social media had already latched onto clips that painted a darker picture. The infamous eating joke incident became a flashpoint, fueling debates about whether Smith's unchecked dominance was starting to cross lines behind the scenes. And that's where the story twists. Was Qerim's exit just a career move, or was it the ripple effect of one man's empire expanding too far? What do you think? Did ESPN let Stephen A's power go unchecked, or is this all just business as usual? Drop your thoughts below because this conversation is far from over.